My name's Sean McCann, and I'm a PhD student at Simon Fraser University, so the other one in town. And I'm really glad to be able to come here today to talk to you about a really way cool bird, the red-throated Caracara, which is the subject of my PhD research. And yeah, let's just get started. So the red-throated Caracara is Ibicter americanus, and we have one right here. It's not very big. This is a male. They're a little smaller. They're much more impressive in life, as you can see, more colorful, more active. But they're a member of the falcon family. They don't really look like a falcon. Have any of you seen falcons before? Yeah. Yeah, a typical falcon is much more streamlined, long wings coming past the tail, and just a superb aerial predator. The red-throated Caracara, on the other hand, flies more a bit like a raven, kind of slow, flapping, never soars, rarely dives. But they have a lot of other cool aspects about them that make them really fascinating. So this is the most fascinating thing to start with. They're specialist predators of wasps. All the accounts from early literature and all the stories and people who've shot them for museums and opened them up, they find wasp larvae inside their guts. So they seem to prey on social wasps almost exclusively, although very little has been done in the way of quantifying what exactly they eat. So they're gorgeous birds on their own, seeing them here like this, but the Caracaras are also unique in the fact that they're very social. I'm messing up my slides here. They're beautiful. They're very social. So you always see these birds in the company of other members of the species. They're always traveling around in groups. So unlike the typical falcons and eagles, which you may see only a pair, often you see large groups of these birds moving through the forest together. I've seen groups as large as 12 individuals, and I've read books that say that they've seen groups of 15 moving through the forest together. So they're very unusual raptors in that sense. They're also very loud and rambunctious, and they make a lot of noise. So what do I mean by that? So this is their territorial display. So notice how they're flapping their wings up and down to make themselves very conspicuous. And of course, they're extremely loud. You can hear them from hundreds of meters away in the rainforest. Now listen as they fly. Just like a raven. So very unusual raptors. Before I started my research, very little was known about the life history of Caracaras, just some accounts of their feeding and some indication that they had cooperative foraging and cooperative breeding, but no formal study had really been made of that. So to do my research, I traveled to South America, and where we were doing our research is way up here north of the Amazon. This is French Guiana. It's actually a part of Europe politically, but of course geographically it's right there in the heart of the Amazonian rainforest. So this is the capital of French Guiana, Cayenne, and our research station where we did all of this research was about 100 kilometers deep into the forest to the southwest of Cayenne. It's called the Nourag Research Station, and it's a great place. If any of you get the chance to go down there, I highly recommend it. So here's what it looks like from a high vantage point in the early morning. This is a time lapse we took from the Inselberg de Nourag. It's a large granite mountain standing just over the camp. So the forests there are unbroken, they're largely untouched, just beautiful primary tropical rainforest. And they get these morning fogs that just roll in. It's pretty spectacular scenery. So here's the Inselberg from the air, and moving right along into my research. So the first objective of my research was to determine, are they really specialist predators of wasps? So Caracaras that had been shot and examined have found wasp larvae in their stomachs, and other things, but no one really had a good idea of how much of their diet is comprised of wasps and what else they might feed on. So to do this, we actually found some nests. It was actually just pure luck that we managed to discover nests in both 2008 and 2009. So can you guys see the nests up there? Up there in the tree? This is about 45 meters above the ground, and this is about 40 meters above the ground. And if you notice, it's not really a nest at all. It's actually a plant. It's actually a bromeliad. So just like a pineapple, except without the fruit, it's a big spiky plant that lives high in the trees. And this is what the caracaras are putting their eggs on and raising their chicks on. So there's an example of the chick nesting in the bromeliad. So can anyone think of a good way to turn a bromeliad into a home? I mean, otherwise it's just a big spiky mess. It's a really bad plant to even touch because it's so sharp. So what the caracaras do is they actually tear up the leaves in order to make a hole for their chick to live in. So here's an example of a nest camera recording that shows a caracara preparing a nest site. So it's up there in the bromeliad, you can hear the wind blowing, and it's tearing at the leaves. And basically, the leaves are torn up and they all rot down, and it makes a great platform for raising young. So here's an example of the data we recorded. Here's a delivery of a wasp nest to a baby caracara. And you can see the wasp nest is packed with all those larvae and pupae, which are the primary food of these birds. Can you see anything else in the nest? I'll tell you about those later. Yeah. So here's another example of a wasp nest delivery. This is a nest of Polybia. We can determine the genus of the wasp by the shape of the nest. So we were able to determine all the genera of nests that the caracaras take. This chick is quite hungry, and it's not getting very much other than paper. But the adults are patient. You see that movement? That's just the wind blowing in the trees. So there it is. He gets his little packet of wasp larvae in a takeout package wrapped in paper. So here's what the diet looks like in a graph. You guys know how to read graphs, the little ones? So basically I've arranged this in order of amounts by year. So in both years, the majority of the diet is comprised of wasp nests. There were also those millipedes, those big millipedes. Also, to a lesser extent, some fruits, some things we couldn't identify, and one snail. I don't have the video of that, but it's pretty cool. It's like hanging out of its shell, half dead. Yeah. Oh, those are the numbers. So over the course of 10 days, we had 147 wasp nests in 2008 and 111 in the course of 17 days in 2009. So in the case of 2008, that chick was much bigger, so was eating a lot more. And in 2009, the chick we monitored from hatching to about 22 days of age. So all the different genera that they brought, Polybia, Pseudopolybia, Angiopolybia, Lipomeles, Apoica, and Protopolybia. So they feed on a wide variety of wasp nests. All of them share one characteristic, is that they're up in the trees and they're exposed. So they're not preying on any wasp nests that are tucked inside a tree trunk or under the ground, but something that they can get at with their beaks. So here's that other dietary item. There it is, a big millipede. It's really odd, because these millipedes are not the nicest creatures in the world. They're quite gentle and you can handle them and everything, but they also have chemical defense. So wasps are defended with stings. Millipedes are defended with this toxic secretion, which is really irritating when it gets on your skin. So the caracaras seem to specialize in preying on things that are, well defended and no one else likes to eat. So that's their niche. So the red-throated Caracara is very social, and we are able to use our nest cameras to get some idea of their social behavior as well. So in this example, they're bringing fruit, and you can see the chick there in the corner, one adult in the nest, one adult bringing fruit, and yet another adult bringing fruit. So unlike these more typical falcons, cooperative breeding is very well developed. So more than two adults are most often involved in taking care of these chicks. And how were we able to determine this? Well, videos like this, and also in 2009 we managed to band 4 of the individuals. So we could see all these 4 individuals that we had captured and banded coming to the nest in 2009. And sometimes we would see 2 unmarked individuals as well. And so we know that at least 6, and most likely 7 adults are taking care of this single chick, which is kind of odd for a raptorial bird. So we had 2 males and 2 females captured. Here's the breakdown of the prey that they brought. So the 2 females brought very few prey. And you might think, oh, well, they're slackers and they're not doing their part. But keep in mind that this green bird was the only bird that spent the whole night with the chick. So she was taking care of that chick all night, every night. So she did her part. White, I don't know. She was a little lazy, probably. So the 2 males brought far more prey, each of them, and probably 3 unmarked individuals brought the balance of prey to the nest. So they're territorial. So this is an example of a territorial display as it occurs in the wild. Basically what you have is this group of 3 birds doing their really loud and visually conspicuous display. And there's another group of about 5 birds, about 200 meters past to the right. So they're calling and displaying at each other. And this is the typical way that the Caracaras seem to be defending their territories from other groups. We have further video, which I didn't include in this talk, that actually shows them attacking each other as well. So basically, this is what they do. You can hear the other group calling now. So, red-throated Caracaras, they're specialist predators of wasps in that the majority of what they're eating and feeding to their chicks are the larvae of wasps. They also eat other things, and we've got some good numbers on how many fruits they like to eat, how many millipedes. That's not the end of the story. If you know social wasps at all, you'll know that they don't like being disturbed. Social wasps, just like the yellow jackets we have here in Canada, they get very angry when you disturb their nests. And they fly around and they're looking for someone to sting, basically to drive you away from their nest. Because the nest, as it's full of larvae which can't defend themselves, need to be defended by the adults. So it's really a mystery. How are the Caracaras able to prey on these really well-defended social wasps without being harmed? These are just fun. Actually, when I did this, I totally forgot that this species doesn't sting, it sprays venom. So I ran away after hitting the nest, and I was like, oh, I'm safe now. And there was a wasp hovering in front of my face, and he's like, oh, he's not stinging. And then spritzed me in the eye. I couldn't see for like half an hour after that. So how do the Caracaras manage to take these social wasps without coming to major grief from the stings? Well, the only other study that was done on these birds said that wasps never attacked nor even closely approached the Caracaras raiding their nest, and it suggests the involvement of a powerful chemical repellent. So just like mosquito repellent keeps away mosquitoes, this guy thought the Caracaras have a chemical repellent which keeps away wasps. So that was a good avenue for investigation, so we did that. Are they chemically defended? We actually had to capture some birds to find out. So yeah, we were there in the field, had to capture birds. They're very territorial. Can you think how we managed to do that? We used their territoriality against them. We put a decoy of a Caracara in front of a net and called them down with their calls. Yeah. So there's one getting caught in a net. I think I'm going to sprint out there and subdue it. They often got out. It was very frustrating. So no birds were harmed in the making of this film. I can guarantee that. We saw them all up to 2 years later, actually. So we sampled the chemicals of the birds. We took cotton swabs soaked in solvent, and we swabbed various areas of the bird. So we did the face, the feathers, and the feet, thinking that maybe the chemical repellent is in different areas of the bird's body. So here's an example of swabbing from the face. We have the solvent-soaked cotton swabbing off this yellowish substance, and we're like, yes, this is it. Here it is. Let's investigate further. So, the chemical repellent of wasps from the Caracaras. What would that chemical repellent look like to the wasps? How would we investigate which of the many chemicals we're taking from the birds are repellent to the wasps? Well, wouldn't it be good if we could find a way to find out what the wasps smell? Well, we have such a way. It's called gas chromatography electroantenography. And so what it does is you take these samples and you put it in a machine called a gas chromatograph, and it separates all the compounds into individual peaks, which you can see up here. Boop, that's one chemical. Boop, that's another chemical. And here. And at the same time, you blow that same effluent over the insect's antenna and record its electrical activity. So where you have a correspondence, like here, you can say that wasp smells that compound. So this is the way we went through the myriad compounds that we had collected to find out what the wasps were capable of smelling and what might likely be a repellent. So here's an example of a recording. We have 3 distinct peaks right here, and here's the identities of these compounds. We had one ketone here, one substance called irididiol, and a myristic acid, which is a fatty acid. Everyone has them. They're not very interesting. But, so yeah, that's an example of a GCEAD recording from a Caracara sample against the wasp antenna. Oh, I have this twice. This is a better one. So there's the 3 peaks. So irididiol, one of the compounds we found, was the most interesting one that we saw because we know it's a chemical repellent already. We know that because it's very typically found in Azteca ants. So they use this compound as a repellent against predators of their nests. So that was the one that we really wanted to investigate closely. Other compounds that we found in the Caracara samples that we wanted to see if they were repellent as well are the 2 ketones, 2-heptanone and sulcatone, which are also associated with Azteca ants. So these compounds are all shared with these little ants that live in the forest. That's pretty intriguing, and it's a little more than a coincidence. We're thinking that maybe the compounds on the Caracaras are actually just from the ants attacking the birds. So to investigate that, we went and got our own ant secretion, basically by making the ants really angry, sticking a glass tube into their nest. And you can see right up here this whitish stuff, and look down here as well. Oh, no, it doesn't show up. But this whitish stuff is their defensive secretion, which they're placing on the glass capillary. So that's the stuff we took back to the lab to see if it lined up with the Caracara samples. And it surely enough does. We have our two ketones. Up here is the Caracara, and down here is the Azteca. Or actually, it's the other way around. I messed that up. So we've got our two ketones here, and our iridodyl, and all these other peaks that line up are actually isomers of iridodyl. So it's a very good idea that the Caracaras are obtaining these compounds from the ants. So if they just have these secondary compounds from the ants, could it be likely that they're actually chemically defended at all? Or is it just some random noise that we managed to pick up in our sample? Well, what we want to do is actually find out how the Caracaras take these wasp nests without being harmed. And want to make the observations again and see whether wasps closely approach the Caracaras and whether they attack them. Because if they don't, then it stands to reason that they don't have a chemical repellent after all. Oh yeah, sorry. Going back. Why do Caracaras have ant compounds on their skin? It's probably because, this is what I'm guessing, is that wasps often nest in close association with the Caracaras. So this is Polybia rejecta, and you can see it's located its nest right beside a nest of Azteca ants. So the reason that the wasps are doing this is because they gain protection from other ants coming up the tree, like army ants, and that helps protect their brood. But it wouldn't likely protect them against a Caracara. Here's another example. You can see the ant nest here and the wasp nest here. So a Caracara probably wouldn't have too much problem with these little ants, but it would like to go prey on these wasps. So our third objective is to observe the Caracara attacks on social wasps. So to do that, we set up this video recording arena. These are not just poles, these are trees that we just found behind the camp. And what we did is we transplanted wasp nests to this arena, which we had outfitted with video cameras. And then we called the Caracaras in so that they would know it's dinner time. And hopefully what we would see is the Caracara coming down to prey on the nests. So moving these wasp nests is a little bit difficult. You have to not get stung yourself. So can anyone think of a good way to do that? No. Wow.
Hire a student?
Hire a student. I'm a student, so I had to do it actually. What we did is we went at nighttime. And at night, these social wasps in the neotropics, they all stay on their nest and they're just basically sleeping. So they're very calm and they don't fly out and they don't sting, and you can just clip the branches and transplant them as you see fit. So here's an example of a recording from the arena where I'm up on a ladder with a wasp nest covered in wasps. They're a little bit awake now, you can see them moving. But yeah. So moving them at night kept us from being stung, and it also allowed us to move all of the wasps without losing any. Because if they fly off and abandon the nest, then there's really no point in doing this experiment. So basically we transplanted the nests, and they're pretty happy setting up shop in this new location, even though it's not so familiar, but they quickly got used to it. So here's an example of a recording. This is a Caracara approaching the nest of Polybia scrobalis. It's a smaller wasp nest, and it's underneath a leaf of philodendron. So these guys are pretty easy to find sometimes. If you just look around in the forest, just look under the big leaves. So the Caracara doesn't seem very graceful. It's having a hard time getting under this leaf. But looking at this, you saw all the wasps flew away. So you might be tempted to conclude that the Caracaras are in fact chemically defended, because all the wasps are gone. and all it did was budge the nest a few times. So it manages to feed without too much trouble, basically driving the wasps off with a little bit of shaking. Sees the camera. And I'm amazed that this leaf actually held up to this Caracara sitting on it, because as you remember, it's just clipped in with a little spring clip. Here's another example. Here's a Caracara approaching a nest of Polybia bistriata. So these wasps are also under a philodendron leaf. Caracara is using its feet to grasp the leaf. They're actually quite dexterous. See the wasps flying out. But none of them seem to be landing on or stinging the Caracaras. So again, the Caracaras don't seem to have much trouble with these nests at all. So maybe they are chemically defended. But what about something big? What about a bigger nest like Polybia gerynii? What about something that, if you approach it in the forest, hundreds of wasps fly at you and it's no fun? How do the Caracaras deal with that? Well, here's an example. Here's a Caracara landing next to a nest. That's interesting. Flies away, and the wasps are quite angry, as you can see. Watch closely at the Caracara as it comes back, and watch what it does with its feet and its beak. Look at that. Scratching, scratching, plucking, plucking. It's having a bit of difficulty with these wasps. They are probably attacking the Caracara. Watch its feet, scratch, and flies away. So here it seems that the wasps are putting up more of a fight and are actually driving the Caracara away from the nest. Here it's going to come back a third time, this time with a second bird in company. Watch that. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Too much, and it leaves. So here it is. The wasps are driving these birds away. Here it is from another angle. The second bird arrives, is driven away by the wasps. So it doesn't appear that there's a chemical repellent protecting these birds. But they are taking wasp nests like this. So how are they going to do it? Watch closely and you'll see. That's one way to do it, I guess. Watch the wasps fly off to attack the bird, but no way. It's not going to happen. So that wasp nest has been struck to the ground. And what we saw in the video afterwards is the Caracaras flying down to feed on the nest or take it away. So those are fun. Let's look at another one. Here's Polybia gerynii. Caracara lands, strikes the nest once. You can see his buddies waiting back there in the other tree. So those wasps probably know that something bad is going to happen. Yeah, there you go. So they're striking these nests to the ground. So they're using an overwhelming force and speed to overcome the defenses of these wasps. So there's what a nest looks like after the Caracaras are done with it. What do you think happens to the adult wasps? Well, in the tropics, the adult wasps can actually deal with this sort of trouble. They gather up as a group at the site of their old nest, or where it used to be. And what they do is they send out scouts looking for a new place to make a nest. So they can take all those workers who survived the Caracara attack and start a new nest quickly because they've got their labor force still intact. All the larvae and pupae the Caracara eats. So what the wasps are doing is kind of trading off. They're saying, we're going to sacrifice our investment in our young for the chance to survive another day and start a new nest quickly. So what does this mean? Caracaras are predators of social wasps, but it's not widely appreciated that birds like caracaras are really good predators. Mostly it's thought that things like army ants are the primary predators of social wasps in the neotropics. So army ants, yes, they're abundant, yes, they're fearsome, and they're pretty well everywhere, but it's kind of a random thing. If they happen to find a nest, they'll attack and destroy it. But something like a caracara, this is what it does every day. Caracaras are specialist predators, and they're taking up to 10, 15 nests per day, possibly, of wasps. So what I interpret is that the caracaras are also a fearsome predator of social wasps, and should probably consider them when we're thinking about the ecology of these insects. Here's another shot of army ants. They're really cool. We've done a study on them as well. So what does this mean for the wasps? Well, wasps can protect their nests in various ways. Here's a Polybia nest, or a Polistes nest, and they've protected their nest from ants by producing a chemical secretion which they lay on the little petiole that holds the nest to the substrate. So that's all well and good. You can also protect your nest from ants, like I said, by locating it next to other more fearsome ants like Azteca. So those are good wasp defense or ant defense measures. But they don't have much effectiveness on something like a caracara, who can just pluck your nest and take it anytime it wants. So one thing wasps can do is they can locate their nest in a dense tangle of branches. So if you think of that high-speed attack that caracara makes, it would be pretty hard to carry that out if it's all covered in branches and obstructions. They'd have to kind of crawl through it slowly, being exposed to all the wasp stings while they're at it. Another thing they can do is conceal their nest. So wasps can actually camouflage their nest. Here's one camouflaged like a leaf. This is a species called Lycomelius dorsata. And basically underneath this kind of leaf-looking thing, you find the nest of the wasp. So these types of visual camouflage are no good against ants, but they're probably pretty decent against something like a caracara, because it would have to have supernatural abilities in order to find these. Actually, the caracaras do take these. I've seen it on the videos. The other thing you can do if you're a wasp nest to defend against a crazy bird like the caracara is to fortify your nest. So this is a Polybia species that instead of using paper to envelope its nest has used mud. And basically the whole envelope is a thick layer of dried mud. This thing could weigh up to 5 kilograms. So if you're a caracara flying at high speed trying to knock this nest down, it's going to be pretty painful when you strike it, and probably won't even break. Another thing you can do is to just have intense numbers. So this is a Polybia species, Polybia dimidiata, that this nest is basically 2 meters tall. So if you can imagine something like that, off the ground, high up in a tree, and each one of these little spots is a wasp, a large wasp, about 2.5 centimeters long. So I've never seen, well, I have seen caracaras eating Polybia dimidiata, but I've never seen it from start to finish. So if you have an overwhelming air force of wasps willing to go out and attack the birds, maybe you can defend. So in conclusion, these birds are specialist predators of social wasps. They don't appear to have a chemical repellent. And it avoids wasp stings by driving the wasps away, inducing the absconding response of the wasps. So what about the future? What can we learn about caracaras in the future? Well, these birds are highly threatened in Central America. They're doing pretty well in South America, but in places like Mexico, Guatemala. You can't even find them anymore, although they historically used to be there. Places like Honduras and Panama, Costa Rica, they're declining really strongly. So, conveniently enough, this spring, they discovered the first nest of this bird in Central America ever described in Honduras. And this is a place where the Caracaras had been considered largely extinct since the 50s. So it seems that they still have a breeding population still there. So tomorrow, I'm going to Honduras with Catherine here, and here's all our stuff. It's a mountain of gear that we're packing up. So we're going to go down there and try to do some conservation-focused study on the Caracaras to learn how much land they need to survive, what kind of forests they like to live in, a little more on their diet and nesting behavior. So we're going to be working with Honduran scientists and conservationists in order to do some field research on these birds in a place where they're threatened. So yeah, just a few more pictures of the birds because they're so cool. And I'll acknowledge people, folks who funded me in France, NSERC, all the folks who helped me in the field, and members of my laboratory. Thank you.